Hello everyone, happy Friday night. My name is Elise and welcome to my tea table. Thank you for stopping by. Today is special. Today is International Tea Day. This only comes around once a year, so we gotta celebrate. You may be surprised to learn that International Tea Day is not just about drinking tea and celebrating our love of tea. It is first and foremost a holiday for us to celebrate the places of origin of tea. It is also a UN holiday. So for the past 2 years, it has been an official United Nations holiday. Which means there is somewhat of an international development strategy behind the holiday. It is not just a marketing day. I think today is also Pizza Day, something like that. I don't know if the UN is behind that one, but I definitely know that the UN is behind International Tea Day, May 21st. There has been a variety of programming throughout the day. I was involved in a clubhouse session this morning with some friends and peers of the tea industry where we discussed transparency in the tea industry, giving tools of empowerment to consumers, to tea lovers on how they can best support the origins of tea, which I talk about in abundance on this channel is the marginalization of the people behind tea. Not just tea business owners, which we can't leave them out. Tea business owners that focus on providing high quality tea to the market do face a lot of challenge in holding good margins and building good business. It's a challenge, when you're on this uphill battle against the commodity market, commodity pricing, commodity mentality, it's really challenging to build a good business. But we also most definitely can't forget the small tea growers, the tea farm workers that work in the tea fields and in many cases are making $1.50 a day. If you're talking about small tea growers, and this is actually a part of the tea industry that does not get covered by BBC, does not get covered by fair trade even, is that a lot of tea is actually supplied by independent small tea growers that sell their raw tea leaf to the tea factories for questionable prices. And that's what's not talked about, is what price those folks make. I work with several, and I know the prices that they make. Okay, sorry, Bitcoin wants to come up. He's like begging to come say hello. He wants to celebrate Tea Day as well. In some places of India, these small tea growers are paid only 12 cents a kilo for raw green leaf. And if you've ever harvested tea before, had the great fortune of plucking tea, as they say, for me, which I've done it quite a bit, it takes me 3 hours to pluck 1 kilo. Now, if you're doing it every day, it's your work, it's your life, you've got the whole family out there doing the work, maybe it takes you less than 3 hours to do a kilo, but it's still a lot of time. I think the average family will bring in 15 to 20 kilos of leaf by the end of the day. And if you're making 12 cents per kilo, that's not enough money. I mean, even outside of not enough money, it's just not enough dignity. So that is the purpose of today's holiday. Today's holiday is not just for marketing tea and posting pretty pictures of our tea brewing, but it is to talk about these issues and to, Bitcoin just wants to be the star of the show. Come here, buddy. Come sit over here, please. Come on. Everybody wants to see you. They want to see your cute face. You're blocking the camera. Come on, dude. Come on, buddy. Come on. Come on. Come on, buddy. He's like, no, I don't want anybody seeing this. I don't think that This is important. Yeah, right, Bitcoin. You don't have that power. Anyway, so yes, today, the purpose of today's holiday is to talk about those people. And today I learned the UN has added on some additional initiatives with this holiday. You're only allowed to sit here if you want to sit up here, okay? They have added on some additional initiatives, including to boost the domestic market for tea. So that means not here. You know, we're not talking about the United States. We're talking about the domestic market in India, in China, in Vietnam, in Taiwan, so that tea growers and tea producers can have a strong domestic market to market their products too. So I figured we got Best Life Friday going on. Every Friday I come on stream and talk about, do a deep dive and talk about subjects that can help all of us find our way onto the path towards our best life. It's unique for every single person, so we only talk in generalities, but I do reference peer-reviewed articles from Google Scholar on the various topics. And in celebration of International Tea Day, Bitcoin, you are something else, huh? You are really something else. He really wants to give you all the close-up. Come here, buddy. Come here. Yeah, so in celebration of this holiday, I am going to focus on the topic of intercultural experiences and how that can play into holidays like today, so we can learn how to better interact and learn from intercultural experiences, yeah, perhaps develop some best practices for ourselves as we put ourselves on a journey of having more intercultural relationships, you know, here in the States, as well as we travel abroad. You know, all of the research that I could find online, the articles that I found to review today, are all to do with like college level exchange student education, travel abroad, study abroad education systems, and doing some analysis and feedback on those programs. So, you know, we will be looking at it from the context of that, but I think even if we're just looking at the education system, it is something that we can apply just to our general lives. So this is not just about or targeted towards college students. All right, Bitcoin, you're going down. Oh, he really doesn't want to go down. That's so funny. He doesn't want to leave you guys. How does tea factor into your best life? Well, that's a good question. Thank you so much for asking that question. So tea is, especially how I advocate for tea at my tea table and in my work, it's a lifestyle. It's not just a product. I mean, it is. It's a liquid. Here it is. This is tea. But when you really start getting into it, and we're not talking about tea bags, we're talking about loose leaf, high quality, artisanal, high vibration tea. When you start getting into the service of it, into the even the chemistry of the product itself, you really start to see that tea has a lot more to offer than what's at face value. You know, there certainly are direct chemical compounds in tea, and these compounds are extracted and used in the supplement industry. So literally, these chemicals are used mostly for mental benefits. You know, not just, you know, you hear a lot about tea helping prevent cancer, having antioxidants, but it also has L-theanine in it, which is a nootropic. And L-theanine, along with caffeine, and the tea plant, the Camellia sinensis plant, is the only bioavailable source of L-theanine, which they use in the nootropic supplement industry. When L-theanine is taken with caffeine, it creates a mental focus and a body relaxation, which is incredible. I mean, that's essentially a meditative state. So drinking tea will put yourself into a physiological state that would help with manifestation. It will help with meditation. It'll help with your rest. It'll help with your metabolism. It'll help with so many different things. So like that's like the direct technical parts of it. But all of those health benefits really aren't seen until you have a daily lifestyle of drinking tea, right? And once you start having a daily lifestyle of drinking tea, that's when you really start to nerd out. You start to discover new teas from new places. It's like even more vast than wine. You can really get deep into it. And when you start discovering new places, it almost becomes like an international tourism opportunity where you get to experience different origins, or as we like to call it in the industry, terroir, different places of tea. And that's where we tie into what we're talking about tonight, the vast benefits of traveling around the world, of interacting and immersing in different cultures, which ultimately helps us to see life from a different perspective. Thank you. I appreciate all your comments. Well, that's a silly question, but I'll address the question. If you had to choose between keeping tea as a drink or sacrificing tea as a letter, what would you give up? Oh dear. I mean, what is a letter? And if we sacrificed the letter, what would happen? Like, what would happen if we got rid of the letter T? I know if we got rid of TT, you know, that would be terrible for the world. You know, there's a lot of people that their entire culture and identity is revolved around tea. That's funny. Yeah, it's funny. It's right. Yeah, we'd probably just, I mean, I would deal with that. I'd rather deal with that than deal with like the beverage being gone, because it's such a iconic part of human history. I mean, it's deep. It's deep. I mean, we have like, you know, something that Americans relate to, which is the Boston Tea Party, which represents a lot for the origins of this country, which was involving tea, the importing and the taxing of tea. But then we have something even more nuanced than that, which is the Opium Wars in China. Those were about tea. It was because of tea that the British government became one of the largest drug lords in history, and fabricated a demand for opium in China so that they could do trading for tea. Pretty incredible. Yeah, I'm scared of no tea too. Yeah, man. Cheers to that. Not use the letter T for the next 5 minutes. So that means that I can't, okay, I've got to like practice that. Like that's not something I've ever done before. So consciously, hey, good morning, good to see you. Thanks for stopping by and saying good morning. Welcome to my tea table. I like that. That's funny. It doesn't get you high. It just, you achieve awake. Get woke. Yeah, I don't know. I'm like really cautious about using the term wokeness when it comes to tea drinking. There's certainly no shortage of marketers of the tea lifestyle that I'm talking about that advocate that it will help you achieve some level of wakeness, or wokeness, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. I'm not big into that. Yeah, you can be a woke ass tea drinker if you like. You're welcome to. What kind of tea do you like to drink? I'm curious to know. So that means if I get rid of the letter T and I want to say tea, I just have to call it E. But then we'll We'll really confuse all the party people. Hey, come on over. I got some fresh E. That's funny. That's really funny. Well, hello from Nepal. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you're faring well. Oh man, this E is great. It's gonna keep me up all night so I can focus on what we're talking about. You know what's so funny is that I have served tea, or I've served E at many raves before. It's a really good experience. Hey, that sounds really great. Green E with orange juice? Yeah, it wouldn't be great, it'd be gray. Okay, so hat sounds great. Green E with orange juice. All right, I'm getting this. Yeah, I've served tea at raves, like in the middle of the friggin' dance floor. It's super appreciated, you know. It's really interesting the response that I've gotten from people at raves, because they're always surprised, like, you know, especially if they're like, really on one, they're on a different level. Like, usually they're attracted to the tea because of the small cups and the tea wares and the different cool looking things. And so they'll come in and then they say, you're really just serving tea? Like, you're not making cocktails? And it's like, well, we could make a cocktail, but yeah, this is tea. Just sit down, have some tea with us. And like 2 hours later, they're deep in it and they're like, this is great. This is better than the cocaine that I've been taking all night. I feel better. I'm like feeling energized. I think raves are a great place. Yeah, it's good. Don't be surprised if you're ever at a music festival or a rave and you see this. Like, it's not uncommon. I'm not the only person that's done it. There's a whole movement. I mean, at least on the West Coast, there's whole communities of people that set up tea lounges and tea houses, really cool kind of bohemian, Bedouin-like oasis in the desert to sit and drink tea, and they become like safe places for music festivals. So, you know, if you are on too high of a level and you need to be grounded a little bit, the tea house is definitely the spot to go. Yes, it's definitely better than the cocaine. Yeah, I do have one of those. So you're asking if I have one of those tea sets that comes with a metal plate that you can heat the teapot on? I do, like the Chinese style where everything is all together, like the tea kettle, and there's even like a dispenser for the water. Like you can hook up a hose to a water bottle underneath the table and it'll pump the water into the kettle, heat it. You know, it's all in one place. You're not constantly having to go around and fill water and different things. But it's from China, so it's like on a completely different voltage system. So I have yet to acquire my converter to make that safely operate with my outlets here. Oh, definitely I brought iced tea. That is for sure. Yeah, there was one rave, I probably brought like 20 gallons because it was my friend's party. He had an open bar. There was an immense amount of alcohol, which is great. But I just knew there was gonna be not much hydration for people. And then even the mixers that were gonna be available were probably not going to be on the healthier side. So I brought in like 20 gallons of cold brew tea and everybody really appreciated that. Yeah, that company, there's like one main company that makes all of those tea kettle machines called Conjovo. You'll see it. Now that I've told you that name, you'll probably see it. Yeah, but I don't use it because I haven't got that converter yet. So now I just use my handy Bonavita temperature controlled gooseneck, sexy as hell kettle for brewing my tea. But just to be clear, especially since we're talking about intercultural intercultural experiences today, I feel like it's very important that I point out that what I'm doing here is not a tea ceremony. What I'm doing here is just tea service. It is simple tea service. Like, we're listening to some like acidy techno music, and I'm just casually standing here letting people say silly comments here. Like, there's no reverence. There is reverence. Of course, there can always be reverence, but this is not a designated ceremony. And the reason why it's important for me to identify that is that ceremony is of cultural significance, especially to those that practice those ceremonies. And practicing a ceremony involves a big process of learning, and then you start practicing. And even when you do start practicing, a lot of the times you don't even consider yourself a practitioner of that ceremony, even if you've been doing it for 30 years, and from the outside would be considered a master, a tea master. And so that's another thing. If someone ever calls me a tea master, I always immediately correct them. The only thing that I do feel comfortable being addressed as is an expert. I've been immersed in this field, studying, building business, educating for over a decade. So I do feel comfortable identifying as that, but tea master, not at all, because that is another term of cultural significance to people that have dedicated their entire lives to, which by the time they die have probably never self-identified as one themselves. And that's a kind of a hard, nuanced thing to understand. But as you have more intercultural experiences in your life, it becomes easier and easier to understand. No, I'm not high. I'm a little tea drunk. But tea drunk is actually a good thing, like unlike other kind of drunkenness that can make you lose focus, make you disoriented. Tea drunkenness makes you hyper-focused. It can oftentimes make you so hyper-focused that all of your thoughts are super articulated, and you can talk really fast, and you can say so many different things. And so, yeah, I'm not drunk. I'm not high. No, I didn't die, obviously. I'm still here. I'm still here. You guys are having fun tonight. Well, that's great. I welcome your fun. Yeah, I am articulated. I think so. I don't know. It's a relative term. Let's see. Okay, we got a good question here. Thank you, Rachel. What is the reason behind pouring into a small cup rather than a mug? Seems annoying to have to pour every sip. Well, that is a good question, and that's part of this service that I'm doing. The service that I'm doing is called Gung Fu Cha. Gung Fu Cha is the same term as Kung Fu Cha that you may be familiar with from like martial arts. It's the same exact term. It means to do something with great skill. Now, this great skill doesn't have to come from experience. It's not proficiency. What's the most important with Gung Fu Cha is intention, right? So it's just the intention of doing the best you can with the limited resources you have. And so the small cup and constantly refilling the small cup and the tea brewing vessel. So this is the tea brewing vessel, which is not that large. This is quite small. I know I'm by myself, so it's really not that small. But if I was having a big tea party with lots of people, I would still use the same size vessel for brewing the tea. I would just re-steep it over and over again. So I'm making the tea in these very small batches so that I can put attention into doing a really good job. have that intention. And then for the drinker, which includes me or my guests that are with me, having the small cup motivates you, encourages you to drink the tea sip by sip. And so even your drinking is intentional. Yeah, so my thoughts on teabagging. Yeah, that's a terrible question, but I'll answer it anyway. Teabagging is a nasty, terrible habit that you should keep in college, okay? We're all adults here. No teabagging, all right? Yeah, not for tea bags. And outside of the dirty balls on your forehead, tea bags, like literal tea bags that have tea in the bag that you infuse in a mug, they're made of plastic. I know they don't look like they're made of plastic. Like there are some that do look like they're made of plastic, and you know those are definitely made of plastic, but even like the paper looking ones are also made of plastic. They have to have the plastic around the paper. They coat the paper with the plastic so that the paper doesn't disintegrate when you put it into the hot water, right? Do you ever wonder how that happened with tea bags? So those plastics do release microplastics into your cup. And there is significant research. You can Google it yourself, go find out. If you're drinking tea bag tea, you are consuming microplastics, but you know, we are consuming microplastics in a lot of other ways as well. So not just to demonize the tea bags alone, but outside of the microplastic issue, the machines that are used to package tea bags, tiny little thing filled with tea, it's a big ass machine, you know, like they make millions of tea bags a day, probably even billions of tea bags a day. It's a big machine that takes a big amount of tea and stuffs it into that tiny little bag. So there's like a series of augers. Augers are like basically like screws inside of a tunnel that will push the tea down to like get it down into that small little exit spot to go into the tea bag. And so they never put good quality tea into that because it'll just ruin the good quality tea, the full leaf tea. So they usually are using lower grade tea. And so the quality is not that great. Like, I don't know if I've ever enjoyed a tea from a tea bag strictly on its quality. But, you know, if you're adding milk and sugar to it, then it's the milk and the sugar that are actually making it really tasty and decadent. And those types of teas are actually engineered to be less palatable so that you will put the milk and sugar into them. They encourage more tannin production. That's a whole other conversation. If you're interested in those types of nuances around tea tasting, you should definitely you can follow me here on Reddit, or you can find me online. My business is called Tealet, T-E-A-L-E-T. I'm all over the place. In fact, I am streaming online. You see the green behind me. It's there for a reason. I'm on Twitch. I stream 5 days a week. And I do cover a lot of these topics around connoisseurship, around civility, human rights, just like today. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's a joke. Yeah, I don't do anything with rosemary. I don't do anything with rosemary. It sounds like it could be good. I like the aroma of rosemary. Get a lot. I'm based in Las Vegas. We don't have a lot of vegetation around here, but that is one thing that we have ample supply of. It's just like random rosemary in all the neighborhoods. But tea, and today is International Tea Day, so I'm here to talk about tea. Tea is a product that derives from one single plant. That plant's name is Camellia sinensis. It originally started growing in the Himalayas and started to become a cultivated product in China by the Chinese, actually by ethnic minority groups that at that time it wasn't part of China. And that's something that's like really confusing for people, because it's always assumed that tea is just from China. But world maps are changing, all the time. So the actual origin of tea is questionably Tibet, or what's now India, or what's now Burma, or what's now China, Yunnan, China. But it became like a luxury product for the aristocracy in the Song dynasty in China. And it spread to Japan 1100 years ago. But it didn't really start to become like a ubiquitous consumer product until about 300 years ago. So like this product that has a 5,000-year history is only within the past 300 years or so become something that like is a cultural product. Yeah, so these tells are from Assam, India. This is like they're like hand wove like silk scarves that are given to guests, and so yeah, these are some that have been given to me throughout the years. I just think they're really beautiful and they go well against the green. And today, yeah, we're talking about intercultural experiences, so it's great to talk about that. I am not from the Northeast. Are you guessing that from my accent? I'm not from the Northeast. Oh, you're Assamese. Great. Awesome. Cool. So you know. You know all about that. That's great. Yeah, I'm grateful. I love Assam. And actually, speaking of origins of tea, like this is a heated debate that like tea may have come from Assam, or tea may have been introduced to Assam around the same time that it was introduced into China. The history books don't document any of that. The history of tea has been mostly written from the Chinese narrative, which is great, like all accurate. I just think that there are pieces of history of tea that have yet to be documented, and I've had the great privilege of traveling to some places and seeing. In particular, near Assam is Arunachal Pradesh. I went to some villages in the mountains and saw some very old trees. I could feel the age in it. But unfortunately, when I asked the people, only few spoke English, so I did have the great privilege of being helped by translators. But when I was able to ask where they believed the trees came from, where the tea making heritage came from, they themselves didn't have great documentation on this, because the history is all orally shared. But they said the seeds came from Tibet, as their ancestors had migrated originally from Mongolia. They had brought seeds with them as they had passed through Tibet. And it's interesting because whenever I posted some video with this story being told, I got, some pretty significant backlash from marketers of tea. They were all people that are in the business, Chinese tea business, telling me that information's irrelevant and that I shouldn't be releasing it to the public. And I figured, what? I mean, even if it's like incomplete and it's just like one piece of a story, it's still relevant, right? But it's so interesting when something challenges a narrative, and this is a narrative that has been accepted and proliferated for hundreds of years. Is really interesting what it does to someone's mentality. Yeah, Assam is going through some troubling times. Yeah, I heard, droughts have become worse and worse. And then whenever it does rain, the flooding has become very problematic, and the tea industry does not help with it. You know, the tea industry in Assam, even though there are like native indigenous tea plants in Assam, the industry that was introduced in the 19th century by the British has a corporate mentality to it, just like you mentioned there, where monoculturing was used and to a great degree. So all biodiversity just ruined, and just only planting the tea because it's a cash crop. So the more you plant, the more, you know, money we can make, the business that we can make. And so a lot of the state is now covered in tea plantations, and there's a lot of pride in the identity of the Assam tea industry. But the monoculturing and then the use of agriculture chemicals, fertilizers, pesticides has, you know, really reduced the soil to pretty much styrofoam, meaning there's not really an opportunity for new growth, new biodiversity. So then when it does rain, it's kind of like when it rains on cement, right? Like the soil doesn't really soak up the rain. It doesn't really soak up the water. So that's, you know, the tea industry itself is a big contributor to what you're talking about, and it just makes me sad. But I work with several growers in Assam, not a lot. You know, the movement towards dignified, autonomous small tea growers is a rather new movement. So it's not like all the tea farms are like that. Most of the tea gardens are still the plantation system, where it's just large plantations with thousands of workers that are all pretty much like indentured labor there. But there are some small tea growers there that own their own land and can do whatever they want on that land. And of course, they choose to employ organic practices, which within Hinduism is like second nature. I'm like amazed by that. I love that. That's the thing that inspires me the most when I travel to India, is just learning about this innate, intuitive knowledge about the cosmic interconnection between land, people, cows. I mean, cows are such a valuable asset for agriculture health that just don't get employed in other places of the world. Really? You don't think that the Assam tea stays domestically there? I believe it does, actually. Most Darjeeling tea actually leaves, because the Darjeeling tea has the fancy branding, which has like a higher value in the international luxury market. Assam tea it can be great, actually, if processed with great care. It can be really nice, tasty, but it usually gets processed into what's called CTC. Hi, Mr. Random. Thanks for saying hi. CTC, which is like the crushed hair curl, is what that means. That's like the little black pellets of tea, like when you see and usually that's what's inside a tea bag. And then that's usually for chai. That's usually what's being used in chai, because it brews quickly, it brews strongly, it's very tannic, so it gives that astringency, which gives way for milk and sugar. You know, it's really good to add milk and sugar too. So I am changing to a new tea. I was drinking a beautiful green oolong tea from Taiwan, but now I'm going to be drinking a handmade shopur from Nanoshan in Yunnan, China. Small batch, super organic. In fact, the farmers here, they use agriculture practices called ecological farming, which means that they don't even add organic fertilizers or anything to help the tea grow. They just let it grow slowly and naturally, and it's great. You know, it does yield a sweeter product, a higher quality product. But most farmers around the world do not have that opportunity. They do not have that privilege of letting their tea plants grow slowly and naturally like that, because they are under pressure for quantity. You know, just like in Assam, talking about the monoculturing culture mentality. Where it's like optimize all the land area with as much tea as possible so that we can optimize yields. You know, I don't really have a strong opinion about tea from Kerala. There is certainly tea there, but yeah, South India. So Nilgiri, I do work with a couple of growers in Nilgiri. Actually, what I identify as the first proper tea master in India is located just near Kannur in Nilgiri. It's really nice. But I'm American. That's all I am. I'm American. But I'm not from India. Although I spend a significant amount of time. I'm supposed to be there now, but I had to cancel my trip because of, you know, unfortunate events. But I'll be there soon. As soon as it's a good time to go, I will be going. And I will be doing some IRL in real life streaming. I do that on my channel, on my Twitch channel. So if you do Twitch, you can go ahead and follow our channel. T is my username there. I do IRL streaming of different places I travel to here in the States. I'm based in Las Vegas, Nevada, so oftentimes there's crazy shit going on here. I'll do some streaming from here. But when I do travel to the tea growing places, I do have the capability of doing high quality streaming. I look forward to sharing that experience. So you saw I didn't steep that for very long. I did not do it for very long. You see how beautiful that color is though? Got a little bit of matcha drip on the outside of this picture. I gotta wipe off. Yeah, you can see the color. Darker color. So pu'er tea is post-fermented tea. When it's fresh, it's like a green tea, but after it's fermented, it starts to darken in color. There are two types of pu'er tea. There's the cooked and the raw. So the raw one is where you let it naturally ferment. It really takes at least 10 years until it will darken even to like a color like this. But choux pu'er, which is what this is essentially where the producer will expedite that fermentation process through like composting. They'll heat the tea and get the tea to develop some heat, which will encourage that fermentation process to happen faster. Maybe it only takes a few months. Oh good, yeah, lemon with ginger is really great for the throat. I bet it helps. And it's delicious too. I heard you can just straight up even chew ginger and it's good for the throat. Oh, this is tasty. It's got this like earthiness, almost tastes like forest moss, like that kind of earthiness. It's funny because, you know, one of the main tasting notes for pu'er tea is like soil. It tastes like the minerality in soil, and people say, oh, it tastes like dirt. Like, dirt do- doesn't taste good. Like who eats dirt and knows what dirt tastes like? But you know, dirt can taste really good. It can taste really, really good. Yeah, try chewing some ginger. I've got a friend that does like Sufi meditation music. He's from Senegal. He's from Africa. He plays the kora, which is like this large harp. It's like this large calabash harp, and he does like call and response singing. With he does shows all over the world. He's a very highly regarded musician. And one time I was at one of his shows, and he pulls something out of his pocket and he starts chewing on that. And then he passes it around, and he's like, "Oh, drink it. You can drink. Eat it. You have a bite. Pass it. Take a bite and pass it." You know, it's like a communal like peace ginger or something like that to help us all like open our throat and prepare us for singing together. So that was the first time I got introduced to that. Very much not COVID safe ginger consumption, but it was a fun experience. So yeah, if you don't have the hot water for making the infusion, you can always just chew it. Yeah, dirt can taste good if it's good dirt. You know, I'm pretty sure that like the styrofoamy dirt in the tea fields of Assam that I was talking about, those probably don't have any flavor at all. It probably just has the texture of like a dry crumbly thing, you know? But like dirt that's like abundant in biodiversity, and having lots of different minerals and nutrients in it, including the manures, you know, like manures can be quite tasty. I never tasted it myself, but like a tea consultant, a tea expert that I've worked with, that I've traveled around to tea growing places with, he does that. He'll just like go up to some soil and get his hands really in there and just like get it all up in his face. He's eating the soil. I wasn't that bold, but I definitely will smell soil. But even more than that, soil is so communicative. Like even just touching it, even just stepping on it with your foot, you can feel its organic nature. No, I usually don't put sugar in my tea. You know, the tea that I drink is like naturally sweet. It has like a natural sweetness. So it doesn't really need sugar, but you can put sugar in it and make it extra sweet. You know, and I enjoy that just as I enjoy a milkshake, you know? So yeah, that's the only way I'll ever take sweetener in tea. Like milk tea, sometimes it's nice, especially on a cold day when you're just like sitting in, relaxing, reading a book or like watching a movie, and you want something like hearty that like will warm your whole body and just bring you comfort. You know, like boiling some black tea in with some sugar and some milk can be very satisfying. But you know, I that's not a regular practice for me. That is like a decadence. When I'm brewing tea at my tea table, like right here, which I can be doing all day, every day, you know, I'm taking the tea just by itself. I love coffee too. Yeah, I do my first beverage after water in the morning when I start my day is always coffee. I enjoy that. You know, I like the aroma, I like the taste. I do like good coffee. I get my coffee from a friend here in Vegas that roasts beans just down the road. He's got a local business. I usually get the is that the Yugachef from Ethiopia? I like it fruity. I like it sweet and fruity. He does a really good job on that roast. But that's it. My body can only handle 1 cup of coffee a day. When I was younger, you know, I grew up like my family was always drinking coffee. You know, when they start the day, they'd make several pots of coffee a day. And so I thought it was common, you know, you just keep drinking coffee. But I do it just like 1 good coffee, but strong. So even like an espresso, or usually I do the AeroPress, which I think is a really great way of brewing coffee, and a very easy way to brew like just a single cup for yourself as well. My views on CBD, I think CBD is a very interesting, cool cannabinoid. Now, the origin of CBD, industrial hemp, I'm a big fan of. I'm a really big fan of industrial hemp. Yeah, black coffee, all the way. Strong black coffee. And then water and tea all the rest of the day is perfect for me. But yeah, industrial hemp, I am a really big fan of that. In fact, I work with some farmers. You know, the U.S. Farm Bill in 2018 legalized the cultivation and marketing of industrial hemp, which is great, because prior to that it was treated almost the same way that cannabis was treated. And even cannabis is now seeing great strides in its accessibility in this country, which I believe is also a really great plant that humans have a wonderful relationship with. But industrial hemp is good for several reasons, not just the CBD. And so that's why I'm not as enthusiastic about CBD as I am about the hemp plant itself. But industrial hemp is a highly restorative crop. Its production cycles really quickly. It can bring nutrients, restore nutrients to the soil. And outside of the cannabinoids and the various terpenes that can be extracted for medicinal purposes, the fiber from hemp is awesome. And like, that's not news. It's not news. Like, humans have been dealing with that as a fiber for a long time. It's just the plant has been demonized so much, and that's a whole other subject about why and who and all of that, of how we got into the place that we are with cannabis and hemp. But like, there's new discoveries being made about hemp as a fiber. Some that I'm really excited about, outside of just like general like building materials, but like hempcrete has been found to be highly conductive for electricity, and they're seeing that like it's even more effective than lithium used for battery storage, which is really great. Sorry, I'm not a fish fan. I do know, you know, I'm a burner, and so I'm looped in with all of the Burning Man community here in Vegas. I'm pretty sure if you posted to one of the forums, and there is a group on Facebook, Las Vegas Burning Man community. It's a really active, engaged group. So I'm pretty sure you could like ask to become a member of that group and then post your question there, and I'm pretty sure you'll find what you're looking for. But you know, like, I've heard with those fish shows that if you wait until the last day, so like even if you can't get all 4-day passes, if you wait until the last day, you'll probably get lucky and get, you know, probably even for free, a tip for people that just can't make it all 4 days and want to get rid of their last ticket. So just dress crazy and wait outside. When are they playing? I didn't even hear about a Fish show. It's interesting how like everything is going back full speed to where we are. I mean, if any of y'all are looking for an anti-COVID getaway, Las Vegas is the place for that right now. I think of like any place in the world, it's like Florida and Las Vegas. And now since the CDC has made their announcement about masks, all of the casinos have made the official statement that how they are going to reconcile if you're vaccinated or not is that if you aren't wearing a mask, they're assuming you're vaccinated. No questions asked. Like, none of the casinos are going to be asking about vaccination status. So, yeah, if that's your thing, if that's your vibe, you're looking for a place to be free and have fun, enjoy Vegas. I mean, it's crowded. So, like, last year, we pretty much... I don't get angry quickly. I do get angry sometimes. I get passionate. I do get passionate. But I don't get angry quickly. Yeah, we had reopened the casinos and tourism here pretty quickly last year. I think actually by this time last year, we were already reopened. Certainly to a limited capacity, but it wasn't so crowded. Like, and hotels were still cheap, flights were cheap, because just a lot of people were still staying home. But now that's not the case. Like, hotels are booked out every weekend. You know, so it's not as cheap to travel here as it was last year. But if you're looking for complete openness, you know, of being able to go to restaurants, go to shows, have fun without worrying about wearing a mask, Las Vegas is the place for you right now. Cheers. No, Bitcoin and I live in a house. We have a nice house. Hey, Low-Key T. What's up, man? What's up, Rabbit? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well. Happy International Tea Day. Enjoying a beautiful small batch show pour. Are you really scared? Nah, this is not scary. He could be scary. Do you want advice? You're welcome to ask for some advice. Well, you know what's funny is that he has bitten a lot of people. I don't know if it's 2000, but he's definitely, like, when he was younger, he was a very bitey dog. He's not so much anymore, but he does have the potential for it. He's like 10 years old. The dog has been around. His name is Bitcoin. So people like to say that he's unpredictable. He's the original crypto dog, the original Doge. Oh, I'm sorry about that. So my advice to you is that it's not you, right? There's nothing that you need to describe or defend in this conflict that you're dealing with. This is all to do with your girlfriend, right? And so it's at a point now where you need to establish your boundary, right? Like, the way that you ask for this advice, yeah, it's your boundary. I mean, if you've already said what you are and that's authentic and your girlfriend doesn't believe you, like, you need to set your boundary. I see. Yeah, regardless, still set your boundary. You know, and because yeah, you've got to retain your authenticity without, you know, having something else interrupt that. And it's hard. Like, that is probably one of the hardest things to deal with in life, is having to say no to people due to your boundary. You know, I wish you the best with that. Just remain authentic and hold your boundary. That's my advice. Well, that logic seems to be accurate. I don't know. I don't see where those things are interconnected, but be authentic, be real. I did a stream about authenticity the other day, and it's like really problematic when we start attaching ourselves to authenticity, like when it's related to like a cultural thing, like, oh, you gotta be culturally authentic, so you've got to fit some kind of mold, and it's got to exactly be like this thing. But like, the definition of authenticity is just real. That's it. So keep it real. That's as simple as it is. Keep it real. Yeah, be authentic. But authenticity is not like it's it's a constant moving target, right? Which means it's a continuum. So it's good. Yeah, I'm a woman. Thank you. There's no certificate for a tea expert. You know, not even for like a tea master or even like tea sommelier. So like in the wine world, there is like an internationally recognized association that operates a curriculum with a certificate program to be, you know, like a certified expert on something. No, I'm in Las Vegas. That's the 9th island. But I moved here from Hawaii 8 years ago. I did. And I was there for 7 years. So I'm not originally from Hawaii. I loved it there. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about intercultural experiences. Among several other, you know, great blessings and experiences I've had in my life. But Hawaii is one of those places that's close to home, and you really can feel that. I don't suggest going to Hawaii right now in this moment. Oh, that's hard. Long distance is hard. And you know what else is hard when it's long distance? Is having conversations like the one that I recommended for you to have. So I'm sorry, you know, that you're not going to physically be in the same space with each other to communicate that authenticity, those boundaries with each other, because that is something that means a lot more and is a lot more effective if it's there in presence. You can feel each other's energetics right there. But it seems as if if you came on here and asked me your advice about it, it seems as if it's important to you. So even if you don't have the opportunity to see each other in person to talk about it, I'd say use the resources that you do have available to you to have that communication. All right, good luck. Good luck. Yeah, video chat is good. Video chat is good. It is. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. What do you think would make video chat better? I'm welcoming all suggestions. Like, based on what we have right now with video chat, like, what do you think would make video chat better? Like, you know what I think would make video chat really good is like smell-o-vision, which, you know, I don't think is that far off of a technology to be accessible to us. Maybe not through our cell phones, but perhaps through some other hardware that we can use when we want it. But smell-o-vision, yeah, exactly. So like, I don't know if it would be called smell-o-vision, but the ability to communicate a certain aroma. So you recommend chat roulette, but accountability. So, you know, especially if you're talking, hey, Kibas, thanks for coming by. Welcome. Yeah, happy International Tea Day. Yeah, we're talking about, I got a question for you. What do you think would make video chat better? Like, what is a feature that you think? And right now I'm talking about smell-o-vision. You know, it's so easy because like aroma, and I'm a food scientist, and that was actually the area of study that I got really geeked out on and love was like volatiles, like aromatics, 3D holograms. That would be cool. What about like 3D holograms that also have like touch sensation to it, so you could actually like feel their hand, or, you know, if so be, you could feel their body while you're talking to them and bring that sensation back. Yeah, aromatic compounds can be produced easily. You know, your little hardware would have different, I think Harold and Maude, you know that old movie about the old lady that falls in love with the 16-year-old, that she had one of those where she invented this machine that had all these different vials of different aroma compounds, and so she could create any smell that you wanted. And so then you could actually smell your partner, or you could smell who you're talking about or talking with, which is really important. Supposedly, it's like scientifically been proven that pheromones are really important to attraction, like your BO. You know, that stuff that we're always trying to cover up. Yeah, your lover is actually attracted to your pheromones. It's pretty awesome. Immersive video chat, yeah. I think that that's not far away at all. Like a total immersive video interaction, just like what was that, like Fahrenheit 451, where they had that? Like all the houses had like rooms, the television rooms that were just basically like walls and walls and walls of television. Hello. Adding an option to share your cell phone screen. I do like cannabis. I think cannabis is a great plant that humans have the privilege of building a relationship with. Hey homies, how's it going? Good to see you. Happy International Tea Day. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, this channel is a very pro-cannabis channel. You are welcome to enjoy. On Bitcoin. Yeah, Bitcoin doesn't mind. He likes it too. Yeah, Sammy, that's true. That's what the pheromones like. So I guess that's what it is. You're right. It's something to do with compatibility of immune systems, and then that ultimately has to do with procreation, right? Because that is the ultimate goal in attraction. Isn't that weird? It's so interesting to think about that. It's such a primal thing to think about, but it's important. It's something to relate about. Oh yeah, Kiobas, you got it. You say smoking weed and drinking some tea is one of the most best moments of my days. Yeah, cheers to that. Cheers. You know, I was listening to a researcher give a presentation yesterday about the interactivity of various cannabinoids with um, the psychoactive compounds in tea. They're almost like parallel to each other. They go really, really well for, yep, coffee and weed, yep. Some people say tobacco and coffee. Tobacco is also a really great compound, or not compound, but product. It can be very artisanal and enjoyed as a, you call it a hippie speedball. That's funny. I never heard that before. I like that a lot. And Bitcoin, you want some coffee and weed? My friend gave me some chocolates, some cannabis chocolates that have espresso. So it's right there. It's right there in a little chocolate, easy to take. Actually, I might have it here. No, the box is over there. Yeah, the terpenes. And you know, tea has terpenes too. I mean, everything has freaking terpenes. It's so interesting how, like, the term of terpenes has become so popular, but it's really something that has always been around. Cool, you're into small batch live resin? Cool. 24/7, even in your sleep, you've got like a little like cannabis, what do you call that? That's like the volcano. You've got like the volcano constantly just dispersing vapor into your room while you're sleeping. Yeah, even a skunk's butt has terpenes. Yep, you're right. Good point, Sam. Thanks for bringing that perspective in. Even skunk butts have terpenes. Thoughts on chai? I think chai is great. I was talking about chai a little bit earlier ago. Especially, you know, with milk and sugar, which is, you know, usually how chai is prepared in India. Although chai itself just means tea. So it can just be tea, but typically chai, Indian chai is prepared with milk and sugar, which is very decadent, very satiating. I will enjoy that, especially on like a cold evening that I just want something like warm and comforting. Oh, that's cool. There's similar terpenes in lemons as in weed. That's cool. I believe that. I believe that a lot. I think that, like, since the concept of terpenes has become so popularized with the emergence of the cannabis industry, of the legal cannabis industry, is really going to open the floodgate for researchers to discover other commonalities. Limonene. That's a fun one. I like that. I'm not familiar with the human interactions with terpenes. I studied in my undergrad program volatile compounds in food and the different equipments that are used for extracting volatile compounds and analyzing them. But that's so interesting, you know, and that's like something that I think is lacking, not just in like the education that I got, but I think in a lot of education, when you like go to university and study a certain So does limonene help? Is that like something that's anti-couch lock? Does it counteract the mycene, Sammy? Yeah, so like when we go to university and we study something for our future career, in my case it was food science. so I learned about all these things, but it was through a very narrow tunnel vision of, how to work in the big food industry, how to deal with regulatory concerns with the FDA. And then that was it, right? And so then, like, when I joined the Peace Corps, I lived in a mud village in West Africa working with rural farmers. Like, I was working with food. Like, I went as a food professional. I was, selected as a food professional to go work with farmers, but I never freaking worked with farmers. Like, I never learned about soil. I never learned about those things. And I'm like, why the fuck not? Like, food comes from the soil. I should have learned that. And the human interaction with the different compounds that I studied is just as important as learning those compounds and learning, like, the scientific analysis of those compounds. But education and skilled work is so siloed, so narrow-minded. It's detrimental to the world in the long run because everybody's kind of working within their own box. And we need to work with each other, so it's really difficult to bring in collaboration, to bring in mindfulness. So now I actively am trying to learn new things so that I can undo a lot of the damage that my siloed education did for me. Oh, cool. Mixing cannabis with a little bit of lavender, that sounds nice. That sounds really nice. Oh, so you got an interesting question. I should try shrooms. So you got something to share with me or what? No, I'm also a big fan of mycology as well. Yeah, very big fan of mycology. But we got an interesting question. Yeah, come to San Francisco. Okay, I'll hit you up. There's a famous tea writer, American tea writer. He's called the American Tea Sage. Really eccentric older man. He's been around, and he's been writing about tea, writing about wine. Beloved character in the tea world. He's a good friend of mine, also in San Francisco. And last time I went to go visit him, he was raving about how his new doctor has been prescribing him these new pills, and he brings them out, and it's all these like microdose capsules of mycelium, and he was just raving about it. I'm like, oh, this is great, it's cool. I'm a big fan of plant medicine, and I think there's a lot that we can still learn about our relationship with different medicine. Yeah, that's the Bay Area. He was like, this is my prescription. Here, you can go get yourself, you can go refill it yourself. That's funny. So I did have an article to share, but it seems that we're having a lot of fun just shooting the shit over here on Reddit. Dang, 12 different strains. Good. Your medicine hut. Cool. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I haven't partaken in that medicine in a while, but I'm a fan. I just haven't felt called to it, like I'm a big fan of developing the relationships with plants that your body tells you. I think your body knows. Your body, your mind, your heart knows what it needs. And the only plant that consistently calls to me is tea. So, the Camellia sinensis plant. But it's been some time since I was called by the mycelium. Oh my god. You are a hardcore farmer over there. Good for you, Sammy. Sammy's got a tent. He's got a little, or I'm sorry if I misgendered you. They have a tent in their living room with 12 different strains of mushrooms, and also procures elephant dung from the Houston Zoo. My favorite tea, and someone else had actually asked a similar question, asked what's my favorite green tea, which my favorite tea is a green tea, so I can answer both questions at one time right now. My favorite tea is shaded green tea from Japan. So that does include matcha. I am a big fan of matcha. I love the sensual sensation, textural umami sensation from the matcha. But that tea is very high in L-theanine, and I love L-theanine. Like the feeling, that mental focus, body relaxation you get. Oh, you like Genmaicha? Cool. That's a green tea. They don't use shaded green tea. Actually, the green tea that's usually used in Genmaicha, which is a blend of green tea with roasted brown rice. The green tea that's typically used in that is a lower quality green tea. And that's why they add the roasted brown rice to add flavor and nuttiness to the tea. So, a white peony is nice. Any white tea. I think most white teas are really great as well. Super delicate. Yeah, gyokuro. That's my favorite one. Yep, that's it. Good job. You're a tea expert. I got all these tea experts hanging out with me today. This is great. Yeah, gyokuro is it. That's the specific. Oh, Sammy, that's cool. I never heard that story about but that makes sense. Yeah, it's like a filler. It does. It spreads the tea. But it also does add quality to it. It adds character and flavor, because the green tea alone in Genmaicha is lower grade, lower quality. Yep, tea and shrooms is great. That's usually, if I ever do enjoy that plant medicine, I like brewing it like a tea, like grinding it up really small, brewing it as a tea, making sure the tea is nice and blue, and then mixing it with other tea. I like oolong tea, and then a little bit of lemon. I've heard mixed things about adding the lemon into it. I've heard that it activates it more, but I don't know about the science behind that. I just know it makes it taste nice. It makes it taste nice, and if it does help activate it more, all the better. All the better. Good morning. Thanks for saying hello. I am from Las Vegas. In Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm not originally from here. Not a lot of people are originally from here. It's a very transient city. There's actually a lot of people from San Francisco in Vegas now. We are booming, man. I saw the freeway today. It's Friday, right? Which is, a big traffic day, big rush hour day. Everybody getting off work. I couldn't believe the freeway. It is jam-packed with people. Most of the cars having California license plates. It's crazy. Las Vegas is booming right now, and a lot of people coming from California, specifically the Bay Area, just because they're looking for some relief in the cost of living. But you grew up in the South. Yeah, sweet tea is very popular in the South. Today's music has been provided by my dear friend Justin Sojourner. As always, we've got him providing his custom-made beats for me to stream with. I like to respect artists and their art, and Justin's a great friend of mine. He often comes onto the stream to make music, so if you catch us on a random music stream day, you'll probably get to hear his music. He's a very talented multi-instrumentalist based here in Las Vegas. He does a lot of performances at different venues. Yeah, and he donated this music for us to use on the stream and enjoy during our little chats. It does sound like the soundtrack to Vegas. That's good. That's a good way to put it. This is his dolphin track. We don't have a whole... Actually, we do have dolphins here. Friggin' A, we do have dolphins here. Oh, hey! Do you have extra tickets? So it is Halloween. So Fish is going to be here on Halloween. That's so funny because someone was just fucking in here asking... Was that you that was asking? Someone was asking me if I could hook them up with 4-day passes for Fish. I don't know. You know, I've never gone to a Fish concert. I've listened to Fish music before. I've enjoyed it. I'm sure I would enjoy a Fish concert. It wasn't you, yeah. So somebody else was in this Reddit room looking for Fish tickets. I told them, and I know that this is the common thing with the Fish shows here in Vegas, that if you wait until the last 2 days of their shows, there's always people giving tickets at the door. You know, they have to leave, or you know. But I've never gone. I've always been really busy. You saw your first show in '93 and you've been to over 300. You're a fan. But not on Halloween? Is this going to be your first Halloween show? Are you going to dress up? What are you going to dress up as? You should dress up like your healing tent. Your medicine tent. That way you can just have all your goods on you. No one gonna bother you. Oh shit, it's been since '96? So you saw over 300 shows in 3 years? Oh dear. Oh no, that's someone else. I'm sorry. Dog. Oh, you went to your last show in '96? You're gonna be Scuba Steve. So nitrous is an interesting hot topic here in Las Vegas right now because one of our kind of iconic leaders here recently, a young guy that's done a lot of gentrification work. I mean, I hate calling it that, but technically that's what he did, which, you know, for certain aspects of the community, yes, exactly. That's who I'm talking about, Sammy. Has recently passed away, and the circumstances of that event have been portrayed in the media as, you know, nitrous motivated, which is interesting because I've never heard of that before. Like, I'm not a big consumer of it myself, but I've been around it. And I never heard of that happening, but, you know, I was hired to do a tea service for some visitors here in Las Vegas that had I met a guy that the service was for. Like, they didn't tell me any details before I went to do this tea service. They just said, here's the address, we want to hire you to come do a tea service. And yeah, so you read an article, and pretty much all the articles were like that, and they attribute nitrous to it. But there was other things in there, but I want to continue this other story because I think there's validity to that. So this other guy that I met, it turned out that he was dealing with a rehabilitation. And he was doing cycles of different, it was actually like, it's like a ketamine and other treatment. And so he had just finished those treatments and then was going to go to a rehab center. And so their healer or doctor, whatever you want to call it, hired me to come do a tea service for him so he could drink tea and I could teach him about tea and just like this lifestyle around tea that I've been talking about today. And it turned out like he ended up telling me his story of what he was dealing with. And he said that he was in like a mental coma for like 6 months, like where he was still able-bodied, like he wasn't like in a full coma, but like he had lost complete control of his brain function. And he said leading up to that time, he was utilizing a lot of nitrous, and he credits the nitrous for putting him into that state. And I'd never heard of that before. I said, wow, that's pretty incredible. So, yeah, just be careful. Yeah, you're right. There's probably, other... So how do you properly... What is that, Sammy? Please educate everybody here in chat. I think that would be useful information for people, because we don't want to see this become a problem. Like, nitrous shouldn't be a troublesome drug. Like, when I first read those articles, I was like, oh, that's crazy. I never heard of that. That's, this is just a media spin, and they're just... But then when I met this guy, and he probably was using it improperly. He said that he was, like, constantly inhaling the gas. Constantly. I don't know if he was using whippets or if he was using a tank. I'm pretty sure he was using a tank. That's what he said. But he said that he got to a point where he didn't even want to breathe normal oxygen. He just did it too much. And then he fell into like a mental coma. But yeah, he's been getting treated, and supposedly this doctor here has been seeing really great success in this like ketamine. It's not just ketamine though. It's a mix of ketamine with something else that's being used to heal a lot of trauma, a lot of PTSD, and then also of course rehabilitation from various dependencies, whatever they may be. Lack of B12. Yeah, so maybe that's it. Like, yeah, you just got to be really smart about balancing all of your different micronutrients. All right, so I found this article. It's from 2015. Oh, that's interesting. Wise words. Sammy says, it's the hurt child in us that really is the killer. Isn't that the truth? In every sense, for everything. So let's help that hurt child. And that's today's theme. It's International Tea Day. The purpose of International Tea Day, as stated by the UN, who owns this holiday, says that this holiday is meant to celebrate and observe the people and places of the origin of tea. And so for us, as people all over the world, I don't know where we are, I'm based in Las Vegas, Nevada, that means that we need to have tolerance and understanding of someone else, and consideration and mindfulness for someone else. And it is very likely that childhood trauma can inhibit our ability to do that. It can inhibit our ability for empathy. And so there are certain activities that we can do that can help us become more tolerant, more empathetic, and more understanding of other experiences. And I believe that intercultural experiences or intercultural education is a very valuable way of doing that. This article is from 2015, titled Intercultural Education for Student Mobility. Student mobility catalyzes a series of highly interrelated expectations. While the various holders of such expectations are identifiable, as are some of the reasons why they encourage the phenomenon, the assumptions underlying the shared belief that studying and living abroad can make the difference for individuals and societies deserve further scrutiny. Sammy, that's a good one. I do like that. That's nice. Sammy says that there should be a shirt that says, "Tender tea tips for me, make the empathy." That's quite poetic as well. And it's true because, you know, the tips, the buds, they contain more of the theanine, which is that compound that creates the mental focus and the body relaxation, which is triggering for empathy. It's like essential. You know, neuroscientists have been saying this for years, that if you want to create empathy, expedited empathy between a group of people, the ideal physiological state that they need to be in to optimize empathy, to optimize manifestation, is a focused brain and a relaxed body. And it's funny because all of the research and the practice that I've seen in that area of neuroscience is using like meditation as the tool to achieve that, which is good, you know, like getting a group of people to meditate together will heighten their levels of empathy with one another. But in addition, I mean, there are some chemical compounds that we can utilize, and tea is one of those things that just naturally has all of those things. That one's just silly, Sammy. Cytokines. I'll have to look that one up. I'm going to look that up right now. I'll take a note of it. Yeah, I don't know about ceremony is the right term. Again, you know, I'm really sensitive about utilizing the term ceremony because there is some like cultural significance to that term. But ritual is definitely okay, cool. Awesome. I got the definition of that right here. Ritual. Yeah, I think ritual is a more encompassing term to use for that, other than ceremony, because like ceremony is it's a loaded thing, and you know that term is often just thrown around when people are really probably intended to say ritual. But some people do practice ceremony, whatever kind of ceremony they practice. And that's like a lifelong commitment of study and practice, you know, which then can be offensive if you just casually use that term. But ritual is something. Oh, I like that after ceremony cake. That's funny. You're talking about like a wedding ceremony? Because there is legitimate tea ceremony, and what I'm doing here is not that. I'm doing a ritual. I am practicing reverence in my tea service here, but it's not a ceremony. But there are tea ceremonies. The Japanese tea ceremony is probably the most famous one, the most well-known one. Although there are Korean ones, there are several different Chinese ones, Taiwanese ones. They all have different meanings, and the practitioners of all of those ceremonies. A birthday ceremony? I don't know if I've ever called my birthday celebration a ceremony. But I've definitely heard of like a wedding ceremony, which that makes sense, you know? Like there are different steps in the protocol that have different meanings, for the people that are observing that ceremony. So that's a proper term for like a wedding. Pass the cup to the left. Yeah, pass anything to the left, right? Although, isn't it like polite to pass things with your right hand? Right, that's something that I know is like a common culture thing around the world, because your left hand is your private hand. It's for you and for your sanitation. But your right hand is if you're going to hand something. But I guess you can use your right hand to pass to the left. But yeah, always pass something with your right hand, because this is like always shake with your right hand. Do you ever wonder why that is? Because back in the day, like our left hand was really important for our personal sanitation. Michael, are you talking about when the garter is taken off and thrown by the groom? Is that what you're talking? My brother over here on Twitch saying cutting the thong. I think he's... You wipe with your right, Sammy? No. Gotta move it to your left. Yeah, your left hand is for that personal sanitation. Yeah, Michael, that's... Yeah, that's not a thong that they're cutting in that part of the wedding ceremony. That's a garter that they take off and throw. Yeah, you're joking. Okay, good. I got you. International political organizations consider mobility as a means to promote intergroup understanding and tolerance. Yeah, I don't know the deal with the garter. I don't know. I'm not familiar with wedding ceremonies and wedding custom. But that's a thing. I've never been married. I have no plans of getting married. But if I ever did, like, that would definitely not be on the agenda for my wedding. Exactly. Just like the whole, like, when they start eating the cake and they, like, smash it into each other's faces. I'm not into that either. You know, I think a cake is meant to be enjoyed and appreciated. All right, so I'm going to read that again. The term mobility that we're using in this context, it means to promote intergroup understanding and tolerance, personal development, enjoyability, and active participation in society, social cohesion, and political integration. Yeah, that sounds great. I think a Wii-themed party for your wedding would be very popular. Everybody would be like super chill and relaxed, feeling good. So, you know, we're talking about childhood trauma, and this is it. Like, this mobility, like, in the sense of this article that I'm reading right now about intercultural education and experiences, like, our goal in raising children to become good adults that, you know, will love themselves and love the world and actively contribute value to the world requires this mobility. And childhood trauma, or any kind of trauma for that matter, is limiting of this mobility. I'm going to read the definition again because I think it's powerful. Mobility means to promote intergroup understanding and tolerance, personal development, employability, and active participation in society, social cohesion, and political integration. Man, you're gonna be dosing the whole wedding party. That sounds like it would make a good movie. Student mobility in particular is also promoted at national and local levels by higher education institutions in reason of the global internationalization agenda they aim to accomplish. In addition, they claim increased levels of employability as well as development of global skills for their graduates who have taken part in study abroad experiences. It cannot be ignored, too, that expectations towards the outcome of student mobility are also present in society at a micro level, as families invest economically and emotionally on the professional, academic, and personal growth of their offspring. Finally, there is the crucial issue of students' varied expectations concerning their own mobility. Though irreducibly subjective, such aspirations and personal trajectories encompass the desire to gain both external or professional and internal or personal and social outcomes from the experiences abroad. Oh, good. I'll check him out. Dr. Kirk Honda. I'll check him out. Thank you for that recommendation. Student mobility. I had never heard this term before. I mean, I've certainly heard of the term mobility. You know, specifically when we're talking about like human rights issues in the tea industry. The term mobility is used a lot, like social mobility, like how somebody who is like locked in a certain social structure situation or caste system, like that's a big issue in India, which is a very powerful tea production origin, which does employ a caste system that does kind of hold people into a certain indentured position. The term mobility is used to describe how someone can move up that social structure to a higher position of dignity. I've certainly heard of that term, but to use the term in student mobility, this is fascinating. I think it's great. You know, if we're talking about how to optimize the appreciation of tea, not just here in the US or around other parts of the world, non-tea growing areas, but also how to increase the appreciation of tea in tea producing countries like India. I think this idea of student mobility could be useful there because it optimizes empathy, it optimizes tolerance. Yeah, you're right. The farmer gets screwed by the middlemen. And the middlemen themselves, too, are also up against a system which ultimately ends up at the end market, you know? As much as the consumer can feel defeated that they're just being fed what the corporate world wants to feed them, which there's a lot of truth to that. But the consumer still holds a lot of power in dictating what the market wants. So, you know, it's really important for us to keep our eye on that goal and know that we do hold a lot of that power. What did Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five say? I'm curious. I'm not familiar with their work. Yeah, I know. I'm not that cool. I'm not that cool. It's called Survival. He got your words. He got it. Oh, hi, Andre. Happy International Tea Day. Thank you for tuning in. Oh, thank you. Much appreciated. Much love to you. So much tea love to you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. Only the strong can survive. Yeah, you're giving me all kinds of recommendations, Sammy. Great. Thank you. Thank you. I will. I'm going to check out Grandmaster Flash. Only the strong can survive. But, like, the concept of strength, the concept of strong is such a subjective one, you know? It can mean so many things. Just like we're talking about in this article, this concept of student mobility. Like, how do we get a child to become an empathetic person? That's strength right there. And, you know, that doesn't involve cunning. That doesn't involve muscular strength. You know, it's like emotional intelligence, I think, is probably like the overarching term. Yeah, what is red? What is red? In other words, it seems that students aim at the four major benefits of temporary study abroad, frequently quoted by experts, namely academic, cultural, linguistic, and professional benefits, but that they do not mind combining them with an interesting extracurricular life. Empathy is a construct. Huh. You don't think... Expand on that further, right? I mean, I guess like when we say that anything is relative, then we can say that anything... There's no empathy in nature. Wow. So, like the communication that happens in nature. You know, speaking of mycelium, right? The fungus network in nature, which is like the backbone of how everything works, and how signals and energetics are shared. Like, I don't know. I feel like that's like pure empathy. I feel like that's pure empathy. That's different. Okay. Mushrooms are from another planet. Well, thank goodness they came here to save us and keep us in line. But like, yeah, I feel as if like even the killer whale eating the dolphin is empathy. That's the neural network in the universe. Yeah, it's like the flow of information. At its core, and pure rawness, like with no bias involved, is pure empathy. No? Am I like way off base making that comparison? Yeah, the internet. I mean that, but there's bias. There's bias in the internet. But you start talking about blockchain, and then we're getting closer and closer to the ability of that pure empathy. You know, that's why I'm such a big fan of blockchain and, yeah, Bitcoin, yeah. Mushrooms allow for the collective biology of the universe to connect. Yeah, so yeah, for me, my perspective of empathy and how I try to understand how human consciousness can practice empathy, which is what we're talking about in this article, is exactly that. It's incredible. So someone asked for a good tea for a good night's sleep. Okay, so that's an economic thing. That's not an empathetic thing. So is empathy purely an emotional thing? My brother says empathy is a practice. It is all trying to find homeostasis. Capitalism, true capitalism, right? You're the one that brought economy into this. Yeah, I'm a big fan of focusing on capitalism being more of this kind of economic equation of homeostasis. Which is why, like, transparency and empathy are required. In order for true capitalism to happen, it's required. And it doesn't exist right now for economy. So we have never realized true capitalism. I'm sure that there's some indigenous communities that have in the past. I believe Hawaii, you know, in Hawaii, that was something that I learned when I lived there. A really incredible economic system, production system right now that, or not right now, but, you know, that was employed prior to colonization. Incredible economic system where every member of the community knew their value, contributed their value, and received value in exchange in a very homeostasis rate. Max Kaiser, another recommendation. Thank you for that. Yeah, speaking of Hawaii, my brother says, understand being in other slippers. I'm going to get to your question. Oh, sorry, Dinesh. Sorry. Cool. I'll have to become friends with Mr. Kaiser. So a good tea for going to sleep, you know, ideally finding like a lower caffeine tea. If you're looking for tea deriving from the Camellia sinensis plant, there are some teas that are naturally lower in caffeine. You don't have to go for the decaffeinated version because the decaffeination process like really fucking ruins tea. So I don't recommend decaffeinated tea. But if the tea has been highly roasted or highly processed or is harvested later in the season, it will be naturally lower in caffeine. Examples of some of those teas would be hojicha, or like a dark roast tea guanyin. Some of the higher like charcoal roasts like yangchas, oolong teas from Fujian, China. But most herbal infusions are naturally caffeine free and naturally like calming and relaxing. So those are good for drinking before going to sleep. Yeah, I have had, are you talking about like the matcha crepe cake? Like where it's all the crepes? You know, not only have I had that kind of cake, I've made that cake dozens of times. My last tea tour I did, I traveled throughout India, Nepal, China, and Taiwan. I brought a bunch of ceremonial grade matcha with me. And everywhere that I went, to all of these rural places where I was working with the tea farmers, I made that kind of cake for their family. It's a very easy cake. You don't need an oven for it. And in most places have all of the ingredients that you can make it. The matcha, of course, that's, the hardest piece of the puzzle there, but I had that part. So that was fun to introduce that to all of my friends in India and Nepal and in China. But the most interesting one that Sammy you'll be curious about, I made one for my friend Hubert Keller. Hubert Keller is a famous celebrity chef. He owns Fleur and Burger Bar in San Francisco. He has some restaurants here in Vegas, but he's one of the creators of Top Chef, the TV show, and he's on several other TV shows. He has a big birthday party every year, and he's a cool dude. Like I'm pretty good friends with him, but like I'm really good friends with like his best friend. And he enjoys plant medicines. He's very curious about plant medicines. And I made him one of these matcha crepe cakes infused with cannabis. And he loved it. Actually, everyone loved it. All these like fancy French chefs were like swooning over it. Like, I can't believe the cake. It tastes so delicious, and I can't. And what's cool is because like you're cooking with the matcha gives it that bright, vibrant green color. And so whenever you infuse cannabis into things, it tends to give it that dark greenness to it, which I think that's what's the most off-putting to people when they have edibles. It's not so much the aroma or the flavor, but it's like the color. If you're making like a cookie that you're used to it being one certain color, and then it's got that kind of dark greenness to it, it's off-putting. But if it's like a matcha dessert that's meant to be bright green, it covers up the color quite well. You could do that. Sure, do that with your cannabis if it's like the higher grade. That's what I've learned. I've learned that in the Caribbean, the qualifier that they use for higher grade cannabis is high grade. It's the high grade. I'm sure you've heard that in reggae music. Yeah, ceremonial grade. There you go. I definitely made some good friends at that party. We had a great time. Hey, Nomies, that's great. Thanks for the lurk. You play harp. That's so cool. I don't play any musical instruments. I have some tabla at my house. The drums, like the... Is it like... The smaller drum is on the right hand, and the bigger bass drum is on the left hand. But they broke. And there's no one here in Vegas that will like put a new head on the drum. I think there's someone in Berkeley, I've heard. And I'm sure it costs a fortune. It probably costs more to do that than what I pay for the drums in India. They're beautiful. They just... Oh, Mike, you're still feeling some of the side effects of the vaccine? Well, a sizzle tea, cough syrup tea. You like blending some of your cough syrup with the tea? Is that what the sizzle tea means? Yeah, I wish I could show you a picture of that crepe cake that I made for Hubert. I decorated the top with it, sprinkling matcha on top, but I made like a stencil with like a cannabis leaf, and it said happy birthdays, and so I like, it's like the white and the green sprinkle with that stencil. Very creative. I mean, how do you like make a birthday cake for a famous French chef? Yeah, I'm gonna like bastardize a French dessert. But they loved it. They loved it. Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's cool. You just got your harp. Well, I wish you the best on your journey of learning and falling in love. I was talking about a harp earlier tonight. I was telling someone about my friend. He plays a harp, a harp. I say a harp because it's a type of harp. He's from Senegal, West Africa. He plays the kora, which is like a traditional West African harp. That's it's I don't know how many strings it is. I think it's like 24 strings. It may even be more than that. And you play it with your thumbs, and it's strung with this large gourd. And it's pretty long, and you hold it up against your body, and you use your thumbs to play it. It's got 2 lines of string, so you can play with both hands. He's super talented. If you're looking for beautiful harp music to listen to, I check out the kora, K-O-R-A. K-O-R-A. His name is Yusu Sidibe. Yusu. He does like Sufi call and response singing. And I was saying the story because I was at one of his shows one time, and he pulls out some ginger root, and he just like takes a bite of it and then passes it, and he says, "Everybody take a bite and pass it." So like we did this communal ginger chewing together, but it helps like clear the throat. And he does this like call and response music. So everybody is supposed to sing, like he sings something and then we follow it, and he sings something and we follow it, and it's just like cool. Yeah, the walls are green because I do green screen. If you want to see like the full effect of it, you can go see our Twitch channel. I'm streaming to Twitch right now. It's more fun there. Twitch.tv/TLitT. Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, look it up. K-O-R-A. Beautiful music. Beautiful harp music. Are you in love? Are you trying to tell me that you're in love? I think so. What all these stakeholders seem to have in common is the underlying assumption that an intercultural experience, such as the one offered by study abroad, is by definition transformative and therefore enough to ensure that the various expectations are predictably met. However, the literature on student mobility and on intercultural learning has shown that residence in a foreign country does not of itself produce positive representations of that country. Nor does it reduce students' stereotypical perceptions of otherness. In other words, firsthand experience is not a sufficient condition for interculturality. There is no cameraman. I'm all by myself here. It's just me and Bitcoin. It's just me and Bitcoin. Bitcoin's tired though, but that's why he's here napping. He's here with me napping. But hello, Director Livid. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for hanging out with us. I hope you're having a beautiful Friday evening. Oh, interesting, Sammy. Yeah, I probably have. I think anybody who's been in Vegas, there's here it's very well known that our storm tunnel system is inhabited because it's usually not in use, right? We only get rain a couple of days of the year. So our storm drains are there out of practicality for those few days, but the rest of the year they're completely dry. And so they are inhabited by people. So it's a safe, secure place for them to live. I've never gone down there. I actually know of a journalist who did venture down there to interview some people, and his article is online. I think his article actually went viral. That's probably where you heard about it. It's where a lot of people have heard about it. Because it's like kind of unspoken of, and from what I've heard, it's not like a welcoming place for anybody to go. Like there's established culture, established communities there. But something interesting about Las Vegas, and where you will realize that this has got to be truth, is that when it does rain heavily here, you will see an increased number of people on the streets. And it's like, where do they come from? Like, out of the blue. And it's because, the tunnels are, the storm drains are activated when it rains heavily. And so, they got to come up for safety. So, yeah, I'm sure I've seen the people. Yeah, I've heard there's whole infrastructures and whole communities going on there. But I've never ventured there. But I think you can find it on YouTube. You can go to YouTube. There's videos of people that have taken cameras there and interviewed people and explored the tunnels in Las Vegas. No, I don't think that they'll make a casino in that style. That wouldn't be attractive for the casino business model. But yeah, go if you're interested. If you're interested in what I just spoke on, I think you can go to YouTube, and there's quite a few documentaries and things like that about those communities. In fact, HE institutions are increasingly aware of the need to prepare and support their students for an intercultural point of view during mobility, and offer courses and modules designed with a variety of approaches and theoretical constructs. The purpose of these is to provide students with opportunities for reflection and analysis, as well as with the concepts of identity, socialization, and culture, so as to enable them to learn from their exposure to various kinds of social differences and commonalities experienced abroad. The tunnel buffet. Buffets are like kind of out of style here now. I mean, the pandemic closed them down. A lot of casinos haven't even reopened their buffet. And then the casinos that have changed the whole culture. So like Caesar's Palace has a really famous buffet that they just reopened. It's like fucking $80 or $90 a person to go eat this buffet now. It's not cheap. Yeah, no. I don't promote like, what is the term? There's actually a term that they've been using, that the sociologists have been using. What's it called? Like poverty porn? Is that what it's called? Poverty porn? And how like damaging it is. Yeah, I don't encourage that. We condone that at all. We're here talking about intercultural experiences. So this is a good example. So you're talking about like some type of intercultural experience where people can interact with this community of tunnel dwelling people. That can be applied to this exact same subject that we're talking about here. That, like without preparing someone for their mobility, for their acquisition of emotional intelligence in such an experience, it could be futile. And if not futile, it could be damaging. For everybody, not just for the poor people. It could be damaging for even those tourists that get an inaccurate exposure of that culture. No, and it won't be true empathy. It won't be true empathy, and that's the criticism against what I've seen called poverty porn. You know, like movies. So like it's a lot of times it's used in pop culture context, like movies. Movies about poor communities, marginalized communities that only portray this image of suffering, which is not the true image, right? Like, and that doesn't give the tourist or the person that's viewing into this window of another lifestyle, of another perspective, of another culture, it doesn't give them, so it's not true empathy. So yeah, of course nothing gets done because they don't get a true image of it. Just like this article just said, the literature on study abroad programs says that residence in a foreign country does not of itself produce positive representations of that country. So the same thing, like tourism into these tunnels to see these lifestyles does not give true representations of that lifestyle. In other words, first-hand experience is not a sufficient condition for interculturality. There has to be more to it. There's other work that has to go into it. It says here, there needs to be opportunities for reflection and analysis, as well as with the concepts of identity, socialization, and culture, so as enable them to learn from their exposure to various kinds of social differences and commonalities experienced in that exchange. You know, okay, so you bring up San Francisco. You're right. You're totally right. Like, there is on display this cohabitation of these very different cultures and very different lifestyles. But there's also a big divide, right? There's like a huge lack of empathy between those two cultures, you know, and there's like this taboo which does not allow for any type of this analysis where people can realize their social differences and commonalities. And I think that's the key thing from this article. I think, you know, I haven't finished the article, but I feel like that's the key thing. Like, and what I've learned in my own personal experience of doing the Peace Corps, of like living in places for extended periods of time, learning the language, being a complete minority there, the most valuable thing that I've learned in all those experiences is identifying parallels, commonalities, because those are the real things. That is the authentic human experience right there. And what you're talking about of this experience of cohabitation, of people on the streets shooting up heroin versus, you know, the people paying high rent to live there. There is so much difference, so much separation from them, that even though they like could be just having a wall separating their living situation, there's a complete disconnect. And there is like no ability for someone on both sides, you know, so I'm not just criticizing, you know, the wealthy people not being able to relate with the poor people, but also for the poor people to relate with the wealthy people. There's not that you're right, you know, and doing this work is a luxury, but it's a luxury that's accessible to everybody. That's why I said it was really important that we not only identify that there is a void in the wealthy people being able to relate with the poor people, but we also have to see that it works in the other way as well. And it's just as important. That emotional work is just as important. That's the only way we'll see mobilization. But I'm gonna look up this Virginia Satter. I'm gonna bookmark her as well. Thank you. So many recommendations. I've really appreciated. Yeah, so you are asking about a good tea for enlightening or waking up. You mean like getting woke, or like literally waking up from your slumber? Matcha. I mean, that's the tea that's the highest in caffeine and the highest in theanine, and the theanine compound is the one that creates mental focus and body relaxation, which optimizes the capacity for empathy, which is what we're talking about right now. And regardless if you're talking about waking up in the morning, if you're talking about being more woke, it's effective for both. But get the ceremonial grade matcha. It's a big difference. It tastes better, and it's higher in those psychoactive compounds. Yeah, that's an interesting observation. Humans are the only animal that cannot survive without attachment. I don't know. I think that there are other animals that survival is dependent, upon grouping. Like, don't certain fish, the only way that they can survive is being in their packs, being in their schools? Like, if they were completely on their own, they'd be goner. They wouldn't have that protection, that herd protection. I know this guy can't live without his attachment. That's a deep loaded question right there. Why do people treat dogs better than people? Because we haven't experienced proper student mobility. Probably trauma, A dog, that also has its own attachment issues, provides unconditional love, right? Like what I'm getting right now. Which is very comforting, and it's like assured. Like, I just know as long as this dog is alive and in my life, like, this is what I'm gonna get, right? But I'm actually, when it comes to people, until my trust and respect, or not mine, but the respect and that has been given to me by another human, until that has been damaged, I proactively trust every single person in the world. It's weird. I know it's like kind of uncommon. It's an uncommon thing. And I haven't been jaded. I mean, even my business model. So my business model exactly portrays this. So my business model, I run a company. Now, I haven't talked about it much on stream because I'm not here to try to sell anything to you. But I do run a business. And it's a tea business. I run a B2B software that connects international trade between independent farmers and tea business buyers. Conventionally, in the business that I do, the sources of the product that I sell from the farms is a trade secret. You know, conventionally, the conventional corporate mentality is that's your secret, right? Because there's really nothing else that I'm offering. Like, I'm not producing anything. The only thing that I produce is software that is used for this trade. So like, it's a marketplace software, so I have to be focused on how I'm optimizing value to both sides of that marketplace. I give full transparency of all the sources of our tea, and I publicly do that publicly on my website. You go and you can see videos, you can see the actual GPS coordinates of where the farmers are. My peers that do the same work as me in the industry think I am absolutely crazy. How could you trust anybody? How could you trust that everybody's not just going to go around you? Because I actively trust everybody. And once someone does something to disrespect that trust, hell yeah, I've got boundaries and I protect myself and I protect my work and I protect my value. But until that happens, and to this day, I've been doing this business for close to 10 years, and I have not changed my business model. Despite all of the recommendations that have been given to me by every one of my mentors, and even my partners, that say, oh no, we've got to not be so trusting. We got to not, and I feel no, like, that is the backbone of the business that I'm trying to support. That's funny. I do know who that person is, and that person is one of those people that has been completely mystified by my trust of the industry, of sharing my sources. That person is the opposite. That person, that's all fake. That movie, you saw that movie? That was all fake. That's not how it works. That's not how it works at all. He doesn't work directly with farmers. He is a cool guy on his own. I have met him in person, and I've been to his property, and I've, been served lunch by him. And that was an interesting, awesome experience because the lunch that he served to us was completely made from scratch, like every little bit. So in that movie, like, his obsession with like organic agriculture and like sustainability and, really grassroots type of methodology, that's true. That's him though. That's not his tea business. Yep, yeah, he made bread. He made bread with that wheat. God, that was an incredible experience. Yeah, that was, but yeah, yeah. That property though is going through a lot of trouble right now because nothing was permitted. Not a bit of it was permitted, so he's having issues with the county. But no, his tea business is the opposite of mine. He does not reveal producers. And like, his trade secret is where he got his tea from. Which is fine. He's allowed to do that. Every business is allowed to do what they want to do. I just brought this up because, I wanted to get an example of my own perspective. Yeah, permits are hard. I hate it too. That's what's kind of stopped me from building all the things that I want to build. Because I'm also pragmatic, as out there as my ideas can be and all the crazy shit that I want to build. I don't like to deal with red tape and stuff. I know. I've never heard of that person. I'm gonna look them up. Movie producer? I don't know who that is. A German movie maker? Yeah, but that the T-Man that you're talking about is oh, he made Bad Lieutenant. Man, I have such a oh my god, I have such a bad emotional response to that movie. Ugh. But Grizzly Man, is that the documentary? Yeah. Oh, he made that movie? That movie is a trip. Like that document. Okay, so this is cool. I do know this guy because yeah, the Grizzly Man. I know that movie for sure. Bad Lieutenant. I'm not a fan of that movie at all. I'll never watch that movie again. Nope. Cave of Lost Dreams. Okay, I'll check it out. Is that about our friend? Our mutual friend that we're talking about? Cave of Forgotten Dreams? It's a 3D documentary. Oh, that's cool. Oh, sweet. I will check that out. Yeah, that's in France, I see. But yeah, Grizzly Man. I love that movie. I love that. I love that guy was like, he was out there, man. He was talking to the foxes. He's telling the fox, let go of that hat. That hat is very important to the operation. Oh, man. I haven't watched that movie in a long time. But I'll check out this one. I don't have a 3D TV. He is a Chihuahua Beagle. Or as I like to say, a Biwawa. He's a Biwawa. That's where he gets the floppy ears. But he's small. He's full grown. He's like 10 years old. He is a full grown pup. Full grown doge. His name is Bitcoin. Bitcoin? You say hi to everybody. Say hi. Tell them hi. He does not have an Instagram page, but yeah, if you follow my page, which he's on my Instagram often, our company Instagram, we're T-Let T. Uh-oh. Someone says dogs are better than people. Well, here answers your question. Sammy asked earlier, why do people treat dogs better than people? And that brought up the topic of unconditional love. And then Sammy, you were asking like, why don't people practice unconditional love? And it's hard, you know, like I used to, so like when I first started the company and first started with this open transparency and just trusting everyone and trusting the system and just trusting it'll work, I believe I was practicing unconditional love, right? But I've been let down. I've been betrayed. And instead of becoming jaded and completely shutting off, I've instead developed boundaries. And once boundaries are involved, things become conditional, right? I don't know, but like there's a difference too, right? There's a difference between boundaries and conditions. Just like, or is there not? I guess you're right. They say, show me a dog that started a war or caused mass pollution. I guess you're right. Ja says, yeah, it's tea time, Ja. Hey, thanks. Welcome for coming in, Ja. I don't think I've ever seen you here. Welcome. It's International Tea Day. We're having a tea time. I'm always having a tea time on my channel, but we're specifically talking about intercultural experiences and empathy and emotional intelligence that we can acquire through intercultural experiences. But Ja has something interesting to add to this conversation. They say cats are better than people and dogs. That's funny. Yeah, I'm currently reading this article about student mobility in study abroad programs. I never understood that saying. Sammy says the hand that rocks the cradle is the hand that rules the world. All right, Ja has something valuable to add to my question about the difference between boundaries and conditions. Ja says you can set boundaries and still love someone if they cross them. You can still love people even if you can't have them in your life anymore. So I feel like, wow, that's powerful, because if we could have that in our mind and in our hearts when we make decisions about how we walk through life, we can practice unconditional love. Because I feel like there is this mentality that unconditional love implies that you're always going to be by their side, no matter what. And I think that scares people, because people have had experiences and they know, and that they build boundaries. And it's like it feels like unconditional love is like this all or nothing type of thing. But what Ja is saying here is letting me see that unconditional love can actually be, it doesn't have to be an all or nothing type of a thing. What? Yeah? All right, so Sammy says, I think empathy might be achieved through neural interfaces, sharing memory as experiences. So now you're bringing this like mycology topic back up. Otherwise, empathy requires mutual pain. Big Queen, you can't block. I can't read chat anymore. Do you want me to like not talk to chat anymore? Is that what you're trying to imply? Come here. Come here. Come here. You want a treat? You want to show them your ASMR? Bitcoin does tricks. He does this really cool ASMR trick. Come here, but you gotta come over here to do it. Come. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down, please. Oh yeah? Is that what you've been waiting for? It has to do with getting needs met and being able to communicate those needs. It's true. So it's almost like yeah, crunch. Exactly. That's Bitcoin's ASMR. So you say it comes down to hunter-gatherer instincts. Get it first before scarcity, technology, and mass production are a tiny portion of our evolution. They are parasites, you're right. Bitcoin, are you a parasite? I heard that too. TikTok, a lot of people have been talking about how cats evolved their purr and their meow to like be emotionally triggering for humans to like feed them. But this is valuable. Like this is also giving an idea. Ja, thank you so much for your comment, because it's really like, woo, it's like brought in a new perspective on this. So it's almost like somebody who is wanting to manifest unconditional love, because I have heard that being a goal for people. It's like, I don't want to be this animalistic survival of the fittest. I want to practice unconditional love. And it's like unconditional love without practiced boundaries could very well be inauthentic and not true unconditional love. Because every person's needs, every person's experience and perspective is unique. All right, Bitcoin, you're going down. Thank you. Say goodbye. Love you all. Love you, love you, love you. Everybody has unique needs. In 20,000 years, cats will be tap dancing. That's if they're living. Knock on wood that's a possibility. Jaw says, if you love unconditionally, you're not concerned about what you get out of it. Again, you can love someone and not give or expect anything from them. Yeah, no, yeah, thank you for addressing that. That humility is respected and appreciated. Thank you, Ja. I wasn't implying any kind of guruhood, but appreciation of the additional perspective. Thank you. We all are that, like our best teachers are also students. And the best students are also teachers. Why seek unconditional anything and give up your skeptical mind that aids in survival? So that, that skepticism in itself. Is that a construct? As Sammy put earlier, that even empathy is a construct. Yes, mushroom teachers. Mushroom students, too. The mushrooms are learning from you when you eat them. I'm sure they are. So that's a major skepticism there. Okay, so so the only thing that's not skeptical, the only constant there that we can focus on in what you just said is aids in survival. Okay, so aiding in survival or doing things that are going to help us with our survival. That's the commonality, right? That's the commonality between anybody that's going to have discourse around this topic, right? But you're implying that skepticism is necessary for survival. And I'd like to say that no. What's necessary for survival is empathy. Or maybe I shouldn't call it empathy, because Sammy, you made a good point that empathy is a construct. But going back to the mushrooms, like mushrooms, like mycelium being the backbone of all of our natural processes, at least here on Earth. It's very possible that other planets or places of life also rely on mycelium backbone networks. That is what's required for survival. And I don't think that there's an inch of skepticism in those networks. There's only empathy, or there's only neurological exchanges of information. Yeah, mushrooms are already no. Survival is water, air, food. If you notice, most of these empathy and unconditional constructs are used to manipulate groups of people, like with religion, except with those in charge. So that's like kind of related to the thing that I was saying, that like unconditional love without boundaries, unconditional love without authenticity of the person that's practicing that unconditional love is a false construct, similar to religion or whatever you're talking about here. What is red again? I don't know. What is red? Everything is a construct. Yes, Jaw, you're right. Yeah, I'm drinking Shopor. So Jaw confirms survival is 100 based in cooperation. Mycelium is the internet of the earth for sure, and that is all cooperation. Yeah, I'm actually on Reddit. I'm on Reddit, live streaming to Reddit. I'm on TikTok as well, but the only comments I'm getting on TikTok is people asking me what country I'm from and telling me that my dancing is good. But Reddit, I've been having like a constant stream of really great interactivity on Reddit. I love streaming to Reddit, but I only stream to Reddit on Friday nights. You're too old for Reddit? Are you kidding? Reddit's for everybody. Reddit is for everybody. You're not too old. You're not too old. Have you ever been on Reddit, Ja? You probably would like it. There's so many cool rabbit holes. Thank you, Sammy. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. I appreciate you very much. Boundaries are important for the self. And the self is important for the cooperation, which is important for the survival. Cooperation is based on security and domination against rivals. What do you think about that statement, John? Cooperation is based on security and domination against rivals. I don't think so. That's skepticism. That's that skepticism that you were talking about earlier. I feel like it's the opposite. And I'm just so gosh darn grateful that I haven't been jaded, because you wouldn't believe the amounts of time that my trust and transparency has been taken advantage of is a lot. For most people, they already would have already been jaded and been done with it, you know, but I'm not jaded. I still have so much optimism in my heart and my mind and my will and everything that cooperation is possible. Empathy is possible. You're jaded, Sammy. I don't know, Sammy, you seem cool. You love to hate. I don't know. I think that's just an aspired identity. I don't see that. Yeah, jaded is my middle name. I get that. Okay, so that'll give to you. But you're here. Thank you so much. You're here. Like, that says a lot, you know, that you've had the patience to hold space for this conversation. You're just waiting for the killer asteroid. I'm waiting for it too, actually. You know, whatever it may be. I do firmly believe that there will be some significant event that will completely change our lives and the way that our world works. I mean, damn, this freaking pandemic has done a number on us, and it's like this invisible thing that, like, you know, not really directly afraid of, but it's created so much change and challenge in our status quo and our homeostasis. So Josh says what we're talking about here, what you brought up about the skepticism and cooperation, is that it's limited in-group cooperation. But if we're talking about like mycelium level survival, that's cooperation on a mass scale, on a very macro scale. Yeah. This was actually a promo t-shirt for a cat cafe that was going to open here in Vegas called Meow or Never. So cute. Meow or Never. Unfortunately, it never got built. Never got built, never got opened. Yeah, I'm sure mycelium could probably survive anywhere. Because yeah, they're just gonna like cooperate wherever they are and figure out their way of how to interact and cooperate with their environment. Yeah, but the pandemic is definitely not this killer asteroid. Our friend here is talking about that. Well, this is what you study in school? That's cool. Yeah, the reason why I am having this conversation tonight is because it's International Tea Day, and which is a UN holiday. It's a United Nations celebrated holiday that's intended not to celebrate tea itself, but to celebrate the people and places where tea comes from. And also to encourage the development of tea appreciation in the tea market domestically in those places. And so I thought it'd be cool to talk about the merits and the methodology for intercultural experiences and intercultural learning, which brought us to talk about mycelium over and over again, which is perfect. You know, it's so perfect. Jaw wants to remind us, don't forget, mycelium can be wicked. It can be, right? Can it be like invasive and it can completely dominate a host, or it can be intoxicating? Our friend here on Reddit's got a tent in his living room with 12 different varieties of intoxicating mycelium. Oh, your friend has a T-bar in North California? That's cool. Is it MJ? I mean, there's actually quite a bit of tea in Northern California, and there's a growing movement. Hey, you're in Northern California. He told me just come to San Francisco. In peyote the size of dinner plates? Are you kidding me? No. I've never experienced that plant medicine. I'm not familiar with that. What's my favorite band? Really? It's gonna go there? Yeah, that's cool. I'll share my favorite band. Don't make fun of me, okay? It's legitimate, and we could have discourse on this, but the Police. That's the only time you'll ever hear me say that I love the Police, but I absolutely love the Police and everything. Like, not only their music and how, like, catchy and just fun it is to hear it, but, like, that band opened a lot of doors. Of course, there was privilege that came along with that, but that band opened a lot of doors for some really cool genres of music that we get to enjoy now. Yeah, Sting is okay. Thank you. Have a good night. Rest well. Really? I like Stuart Copeland. Like, the band of the Police I really like. And the Sting is cool. Like, I've enjoyed some of his stuff that he's been doing lately, but like the band of the Police and like the cultural representation they had for that time is awesome. Yeah, the Police, the band, is the only Police that we need to keep around in its form, preserved how it is. The rest of it, yeah, we can certainly reimagine public safety. Yeah, Stuart Copeland, and then who was the guitarist? But yeah, they didn't stay together for long, which is fine, you know, because sometimes people do the job that they're meant to do for the time that they do it, and we should just respect that and love that. So is Oysterhead the band that you're talking about with the singer from Fish? I'm live streaming on 6 different places. Are you okay with that? Do you consent to me doing that? I consent. I think it's not a problem. I'm keeping up with chat everywhere, don't worry. I've never listened to their music on any kind of hallucinogen. Yeah. It's like very sobering music for me. It's just fun. It feels so poppy, so fun. But yeah, I like the exposure and opportunity that band brought for so many like really great genres of music that now have become like very commonplace. You know, maybe that's an example of privilege being used to open the door for marginalized things. Or maybe not. Maybe it's not. I guess, yeah, the nitrous would make sense for like those really repetitive endings to all their songs. Like that, I'll admit, like that's the major negative feedback. Anytime I've said, like, I get trolled a lot when I say that the Police is my favorite band, because people would say, yeah, but every single song was the same structure. Like they had no variety and no like artisanship in how they structured their music. Because every single song, it does. If you go back and listen, you'll notice every single song like ends the same way with like the repetition. Oh, Illegal Alien, the Sting song. Englishman in New York. That's probably like the only like solo Sting song that I really like. Yeah, that's a really great song. Yeah. Sting in his maturity has lost some of the kind of like whimsical, kind of beauty that I think that the Police had. I don't know, I'm not too sure. Walking on the Moon. So Walking on the Moon is my favorite Police song. That's my favorite Police song. Yep. Yeah, that's a good one. And I pretty much like any cover I've ever heard of it. So that's also, I think, a good sign of a good classic band and classic song is that, like, even if it gets covered by different genres or different groups and completely different sounds, it's still enjoyable. Yeah. Do you have any favorite poems? Wow. I don't know. I guess I don't appreciate poetry the same way. Definitely not to the same degree that I've appreciated music or art. Dude's name is Gordon. Yeah, that's right. That's his real name. Yeah, I'll read it. If you want to share it in the chat, I'll read it. Yeah, I'll read it for sure. Hell yeah, Ja. Please, share some poetry with me. You're right. Music and art are poetry. Yes. I mean, most recently, I was very moved by Amanda Gorman's poem at the inauguration, as was everybody else. I like her a lot. I started following her and really, love her energy and what she's bringing. What she's bringing to young people, the empowerment she's bringing to young people for appreciating the power of words. Is this it? Is this it, Ja? Oh, bye Reddit. Thanks for hanging out. That was fun. All right, TikTok. I'm gonna tune. Well, I guess maybe you can stay. Okay. All right. I'm gonna read the poem. I'm gonna read the poem, and then we're gonna have a good night. Oh, the whole thing is there. That's great. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are headed home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. Wow, it is so good, and it's so related to what we've been talking about. That's so good. Thank you so much for sharing that. Wow, how apropos, how perfect. How perfect is that? I think I might have a new favorite poem. Yeah, it's so easy, yet having, so much intelligence about what we've been talking about tonight. It's so simple. I learned something over this past week, just yesterday, Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Ja. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I learned something this week about this topic of just going with the flow and being a part of this cooperation for survival, for optimal survival. And in our current society, proficiency is prioritized. Your worth, your salary, your position in society is merit-based off of your proficiency of whatever you are, your work or your business or whatever that you're doing to acquire your value and worth in this world, in this society. And that's so flawed, because I was listening to a talk about how to select your teachers, in that proficiency is not important. That should be the last thing that you look at when you select your teachers. Prioritized over that is intention. What is the goal of that teacher, and is that goal aligned with your own goals? And so for me, over the past few years, I've been doing a lot of work of prioritizing intention over proficiency. And so in the context directly of the work that I do of inspiring others to become more empathetic and to become more humble and to quiet their ego, I had a question about so if ego is what's marketable, if showcasing your proficiency is what's marketable, how can I achieve my goal of making empathy and humility a mass market widespread thing, if practicing humility myself is an important part of that inspiration and teaching? How do you make humility marketable? And someone that I identify as my teacher says, no, your goal has nothing to do with this. You can't push your goal into this. You just have to, first and foremost, trust the process. And so I was whoa, so that's my learning, is that the priority is the process. If you really want to prioritize your things, making sure that you're doing the right practice is first. Then comes intention, and finally comes proficiency. Not to say that proficiency doesn't matter at all. Fuck yeah, of course proficiency matters. But what matters first and foremost is that you're being authentic to the process. And that's something I always left out. I always just prioritize the intention. It's like, no, the intention is all that matters. And it's like, no, well, intention is important. It's more important than the proficiency, but knowing and trusting the process, exactly what's said in this poem here, is the magic, is the juicy, is it. Ja, thank you so much for sharing that. It's been a great blessing to have you join the stream and contribute so much to this beautiful conversation. And we are all finding our place in this big, messy family. That is for sure. Well, today has been a lovely stream. I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. So grateful. So grateful. So much more than I could have anticipated for this International Tea Day celebration. Thank you, Ja. Hey, I want to know more about your friend that's growing tea in Northern California. I want to know more about that. Because, I help tea farmers. I tell the story of tea, so that's immediate, but I also help tea farmers. I help tea farmers all over the world. But definitely here at home, for sure. For sure. Where to go? Oh, yeah. So are you talking about Mike Fritz? Because I know his farm got burned out by the campfire. But it's interesting if it's not Mike Fritz, because I thought Mike Fritz was the only one that was getting tea going up in that area, that specific area. Yeah, but I know Mike. But that's cool. That's cool. Mike. He is he's a good man. He's a good man. Oh, these guys are hanging out, camping out in a botanical garden. Let's go say hi to my friends in Hawaii. We'll go read. They're camping in Hawaii. See if she even notices our raid. I live in Las Vegas. I used to live in Hawaii. I moved to Vegas about 8 years ago. Or a little over 8 years ago. I love it here though. Vegas is a good place. I like the desert. I like heat. But I do miss the ocean. But, it's only a 4-hour drive away. But yeah, Ja, thank you so much for coming and hanging here. I'm so grateful. You've contributed so much. Oh, lucky you. I hope you enjoy your camping trip. All right, let's go rate these peeps. All right, y'all, I'm gonna go enjoy your camping trip. I hope to see you again on another live stream. I'm here 5 days a week. Lots of great conversations like what we had tonight. You are always welcome and you are always loved. Love you so much.